just like a normal hug. And before I realized that I couldn't let go, I knew that it could only be God or somebody, maybe my mother praying for me in the moment. I was shocked. It was a mix of things, actually. I asked her to leave, couldn't believe myself. Like the whole night I couldn't sleep. I've always been in church. I've found myself doing one thing or the other in church. I've happened to find myself leading a lot of things in church. So that more or less formed my identity, if I should put it. So in a couple of years back, say between 2020, 2021, I still used to serve in church, and a series of happenings, in church led to me having to be removed, if I should say, from serving and happen to move to the sidelines. What that did for me in that time, amongst other things, was that I became so alone. I was in the midst of people, but I was very, very alone because, like I said, I had formed my identity. Even my relationship with God was centered around all the things I did in church. And most importantly, my family was in church, if you get what I mean. But after all of this happened and I was removed and happened to step on the sidelines, what it did for me was that I became very alone, even though I was in the midst of people. And so, the need to even be heard, to be loved was there, but I had to more or less suppress it, and try and move on. But it wasn't easy for me. There were times where people would reach out and we saw you during service, but right after you left, and their reason is that they assumed that you should stay around and at least say hi. But I didn't feel like I belonged anymore. It was a very difficult moment for me. So I would often withdraw and just be by myself. Praying or reading the word didn't feel like it would help at any point. And so I'd rather just do something else. So I was hardly ever praying. I was hardly ever reading my Bible. I was just alone. There was a time where I realized that the people that I thought would be there for me were not. There was this particular person, a lady friend who would mostly come around and who could see, for some reason, was also in church and could more or less see what was happening for some reason, would come around and check on me, and see if I'm okay. After a series of visits, I thought that this was somebody who more or less understood or could see what I was going through. And then again, the need to be loved and the need to be wanted was there. So we started talking, and started comforting each other because she also had a similar story with church and being hurt by the same people that she thought she would love her, So it was more or less we're bonding over our own pain and struggles. I remember this very vividly. It was a Friday on campus. Friday nights, if you are not in the club and you're a church boy, then you are going to pray. But that Friday, I didn't feel like praying. I knew that if I didn't go, there would be series of calls. So I showed up, and right after, I left. And so this friend of mine, who was also in the same church, noticed that I left right after. So she passed by my room on her way to hers. And when she entered, I was in the room alone. I rather not turn on my lights. I was just there in the dark, and she knocked. I didn't want to open the door at first, but when I heard her voice, I was like, okay, you know what, let me just allow her in. So she came in. We got into talking about, why I left right after. I said that I just didn't feel like being there. And that thing that happens where right before it happens, you can more or less see everything happen from start to finish. But some way, somehow, you convince yourself that it won't happen. That was what it was like for me because in a flash, I knew where this would go. But for some funny reason, I thought that it couldn't go there. So it was just a normal hug. And before I realized that I couldn't let go, and it became very intense. It started progressing. And right there in the moment, I knew that it could only be God or somebody, maybe my mother praying for me in the moment, because I don't know how I stopped. But for some reason, I just couldn't go ahead with it. So we stopped mid. Yeah, that even call it mid. I don't know. But we stopped in there somewhere. And in that moment, right there, I don't know what to call it, but immediately I was very, very, very sad. Even before like anything else. Like for me, I was shocked. It was a mix of things actually. And so I asked her to leave, couldn't believe myself. Like the whole night I couldn't sleep. So in the morning I picked up the phone and I called a friend. I told him what had happened and how I couldn't believe that I had done something like that. One of the things that he said to me that really stuck with me, or that more or less like felt like him handing me a rope to pull me up, was that when Jesus decided to go on the cross and die, like he saw me in that state and still decided that I was worth his death.